Hi everybody. So today I'm going to show you how I box up and pour up my impressions. In this case I have an RPD impression for maxillary RPD, and I'm going to be using a dry erase magnet roll tape in this case. Now I generally use magnetic boxing strips that are specifically designed for this, but in case if you can't find it, something like this works pretty well. It's fairly inexpensive. You just cut a strip about 15 to 20 inches and you create a box with it, just like this. Now you can make sure it when you are sizing it up, you have to make sure that you have enough space all around so you have a nice landing area for your models. So what I'm going to do in this case, now I previously cut off the handle, so it'll be a little bit easier for me to box this up. And I'm using here R-Time dough, and you can reuse this stuff. So I'm going to make a nice little pedestal for me to rest my impression on, just like that. And I'm using just very mild pressure to place it in there because I don't want to distort anything. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have the hamular notches and the incisive pillar in about the same horizontal plane for my hip plane. Pretty much it makes it easier down the line to orient things. And I'm going to position my ring just like that. And all I'm going to do from here is slowly just add my dough all the way around my impression. Just trying to do it all evenly all the way around. Now the vestibular zone, I need to make sure that all of this is exposed. Well, maybe not all the way down, but at least 3 to 5 millimeters. About 3 millimeters should be sufficient for your proper seal if you're doing, for example, a full denture where the suction is so much more important, obviously. On partial cases, you're just looking for these zones right here. But nevertheless, I kind of box up all my impressions the same way, so I have nice and clean models. And this step, I mean, I'm taking my time here, but if you really wanted to, you can go pretty quickly with this and box up an impression in just a couple of minutes. So once I've added everything all the way around, here, push it all the way down. Now there's some areas where my fingers are not going to get in very easily, well, mostly because I have fat fingers. But I'll show you a little trick I use once I've added the bulk of the material. Just like that. I need to put a little bit more here because it's a little bit too deep. Perfect. Okay, so you can take a little Q-tip and just wet it a little bit. And that works really well for moving the dough around the impression, just so you've exposed enough of the edge to be poured up, just like this. Okay, so once you're done with this, it's time to measure your stone and your water. And what I generally do is I pre-measure by weight when it comes to stone, and by volume when it comes to liquid. Add it to my bowl. I'm going to move this thing right here a little bit closer to my vacuum so I don't end up breathing this stuff in. Turn my vacuum on and start adding my powder to water. Sorry, it gets a little loud, but it works pretty well to keep the dry powder away from my nose and rinse me from breathing it in. Okay? Now that I've mixed it together to where the powder is not flying all over the place, I'm going to go ahead and connect it to my vacuum mixer. for about 30 seconds to make sure it gets a very nice and homogeneous mix. It's going to be bubble free. I'm a big fan of boxing up all my impressions because that way you get a very nice landing area, and also any moisture that's residual in the stone is going to go up instead of down, so the area that's closest to the impressed surface is going to be the most exact. Okay, so now that the stone has mixed, I'll take it out. I'm going to slowly add to my impression. You don't want to go quick, because what you're going to end up doing is trapping some air in it. And all this time you spend taking this impression and boxing it up and everything else is going to be ruined, because your impression is, well, your model in this case, is not going to be precise, and you're going to have to redo things. See, I'm going a little bit at a time, allowing the stone to flow into each of the teeth. There we go. And you also need to remember that the base of the model needs to be about 15 millimeters tall. So I'm looking, it's going to be to about right here. So making sure that the stone flows nice and evenly all the way through. So you got a little bubble right here coming up. It's probably because there's a space between the dough and the impression. So the stone's flowing in there a little bit. All right, I'm just going to use my spoon real quick to spoon up the remainder of the stone from my mixing bowl. That's going to give me just enough stone to create my 15 millimeter base or so. And just like that. Alright. See, just right there. Good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little washer, a galvanized washer right here, and a little matrix that I made to create a key. This is just silicone. Right on top of this, and move this in, and what that's going to do is create a little indentation for me to do my magnetic split cast. So my magnet is going to go on top of the washer, and the dots on the key are going to create a key for my magnetic split cast, and that gives me just enough room in this area right here to create my magnetic split cast. So when this sets up, I'm just going to remove the key from this, apply a little separator, and just pour the stone with the magnet inside of it and give a little retention so I can mount to the articulator. So pretty easy to do, but this is the way that I do majority of my models start to finish. So hopefully this will help you guys. Thanks so much for watching.